Hey everybody, welcome back to the cooking spot. I'm Chef Nadia. Chef Ruben is over there, but we're gonna wait to see him yet. But he's here. So today's a very special cooking spot. We have an amazing guest chef for you, Chef Adan Medrano. An amazing show today. Do me a favor, okay? Let's all stop really quick and take out your cell phone, okay? Do me a favor. We have to not only thank a couple people, but in showing our gratitude, let's also follow them, okay? First person we gotta follow, Culinary Arts. Hey, go to our Facebook page, hit like, please follow us, you'll get more content. Number two, our STC library. We would not be able to do this without the partnership of the library and their support in bringing our chef author today. Number three, you ready for this one? So we would not be able to do any of this possible without our local farms, okay? So Terra Preta, they are on Instagram, they are on Facebook. Please give them a beautiful follow. We cannot do anything without farms in our culinary community. So they're also out of Edinburgh. And then lastly, we got some beautiful masa donated from Neighborhood Molino just to continue the conversation of local food. It's Cinco de Mayo. If you want some authentic Mexican tortillas, go ahead and go buy some at the farmer's market from Neighborhood Molino. Look at how beautiful these are. Okay, if you want to taste Mexico, if you want to lick it, go check out Andres's Masa, okay? And look at this beautiful corns. Have you ever seen this type of corn? I have. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to present Chef Adan Medrano. Today we are going to do two amazing recipes, super quick recipes that you can do at home as well with local ingredients. The recipes are on, we have them on Zoom per request. We're gonna link them up there with chef's permission, but you can also find them, if I may, in Chef Adan's two books, Truly Texas Mexican and Don't Count the Tortillas, okay? So the recipes are on the books. Please support him. Get the books. We also have the books at our library here at STC. So check them out and then put them back and then check them out again. All right, y'all, I'm not gonna keep you from the guest. So join me in welcoming Chef Adan.
Okay.
Awesome, yay, thank you, Chef.
Thank you, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. I've been told that I can take my mask off. This is a very big space that we are in. Everyone is wearing masks. When I talk, the person next to me will not be wearing a mask. If they take their mask off, I will wear my mask. And so this way you can hear me better. I'm going to be making for you albóndigas de chile ancho and squash blossoms that are stuffed with beans and with chorizo. It's a new recipe. Beans and chorizo together make a very fine, smooth paste. And when you taste them, you almost think that you're tasting cream. They're very creamy and nice. And so we'll start with the frijoles. What we're going to do today is make these two dishes because being in the Rio Grande Valley, being here, this is what I write about in my books and in the movie that just came out. We filmed it here in the valley. And so it's an honor to be at the La mera mata de la cocina tejana mexicana, you know, where the roots of this food are. First thing we're going to do is start with the beans. We're going to use beans and chorizo to stuff the squash blossoms. But the beans take a little while to cook, so we're going to start with those. Now, when you do the beans, which is tray one, the beans I'm going to cook in the, we can put the camera on the skillet. Usually I use a cast iron, but we're going to go and do the skillet. I had a, you all can hear me, right? Everybody can hear me. I had a, these are pinto beans that have been boiled the night before. It takes about 3 hours, 4 hours to cook the pinto beans. The first thing you do when you buy the dried beans is you clean them. You put them on the table and you you inspect them one by one to make sure that the beans do not contain any stones, any grit. And usually I have a, a bean masher, but today we're using a little bit of a pastry masher. The nice thing about poor people's food, this is comida casera. What I'm cooking is comida casera. And it's poor people's food from South Texas and northeastern Mexico, what I call the Texas Mexican region. Notice how I'm making sure that the beans are mashed. When I was at the CIA as a student, I was making these and I said, I need a bean masher. They didn't have one. And so I was running around trying to look for a bean masher, and you can switch cameras to me. And the professor said, use the food processor. We're in the 20th century. He said, come to the modern times. And I said, but I don't want to make puree of beans. The food processor makes it into baby food. And he says, well, it's puree of beans. I said, no, it's not. It's frijoles guisados, the way my mother used to make them. So this works a little bit. It's not the best, but if you don't have a bean masher, what you can do is get a can, you know, a can of some sort. In this case, it's a little bowl. You know, you have to make do with what you have. This is what we had. We didn't have a bean masher, so I'm taking, you could say a can of pinto beans that has not been opened, and mash the beans like this. Why am I mashing the beans? Frijoles guisados, instead of making puree in a blender the way many fast food restaurants do, they just take the beans, cook them, put them in a blender, and maybe add flavorings to them, smoke, bacon, or whatnot. But these beans, I'll show you with the spoon. We are having a frijoles guisados dish that does not puree the beans. You're going to have flakes. I'm going to let them cook a little bit. You're going to have flakes. You're going to have flakes, and the reason you want to have flakes is when you put the beans in your mouth, you want to have a good mouth feel. You don't want to taste baby food. We're not doing baby food. And the beans will break down, but you will have texture in your mouth, and that's very important. The other thing we're doing is you'll see the beans are starting to boil. Here's the technique I want to show. These are frijoles guisados. Guisados is well-cooked beans. And what I'd like to do is show you that at the bottom, it's getting very hot. I'm going to let that cook some more, put it on high. What we want to do is two things. We want to caramelize the starches in the beans in order to develop flavor. But the main thing is we want to cook the protein in the beans so that it comes to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. When that temperature is reached, we reach what the Swiss call the Maillard reaction. My mother called it, frijoles bien guisados. And what it does is when it reaches that temperature, the protein in the beans begins to change. It's what happens when you cook beef and you sear it. That flavor, that dark flavor, the molecules of the protein have changed. That's what you want. So that's what we're trying to achieve. I put some water in here so that I could mash them. So the beans are going to begin to guisarse. Es un guisado de frijoles. While the beans cook, I want to show you in a map form the source of this food. So we're going to go to the slides. I want to explain to you what it is that we're talking about today. So the theme of today is the art of Texas Mexican cooking. And by that I mean that Tex-Mex, it's Texas Mexican. Another word for Texas Mexican is comida casera. If you think of your mom, if you're a Mexican American from this region, or if you know a Mexican American family from this region, from South Texas or northeastern Mexico, you know frijoles guisados, you know comida casera. That's Texas Mexican food. It's not Tex-Mex. That's why in the New York Times, when they featured me on their front page, they chose the title, "Don't Call It Tex-Mex." It's comida casera. And when you see the dishes that we're going to cook today, on the top you have the flor de calabaza, which is going to be stuffed with beans and chorizo. And on the bottom you have the albóndigas, the chile ancho that we're going to cook. You see the chile ancho there on your right. This is an artistic practice that we receive from our families, from our ancestors, and that connects us to each other because we share it. But more importantly, and as importantly rather, it connects us to this land. Esta comida es de esta tierra. This Rio Grande Valley is where this food was born. South Texas, northeastern Mexico. Not to be confused, so what I can say, not to be confused with Tex-Mex. What I'm saying today is, I am cooking with you today in my ancestral lands. The food we're cooking today, the ingredients are thousands of years old. And my ancestors, the Coahuiltecans and other native peoples who lived in South Texas and northeastern Mexico, have been cooking these foods for generations, over 2,000 years. So our people, the ancestors of the Mexican-American communities of South Texas, have been here for over 200 generations. This information is available in my first cookbook and the second cookbook. And I would say this is Tex-Mex. This is comida casera. The two are not the same. To make a distinction is not to disparage one or the other, but my mother never cooked this food at home. She never put cheese on top of her carne guisada as they do here. Tex-Mex, the food that we're going to cook is before and beyond Tex-Mex. Nopalitos, carne guisada, etc. So today we're going to go through the history, the geography, and we're going to really focus through these two dishes on the flavor profile that belongs to us, to our comida casera. I would like to show some maps because this is the background for the frijoles that we're going to be making today, and with the calabacita, with the chorizo. This is the map of the Republic of Mexico in the 1800s. This is 1824 actually. We can come a little bit closer and you can see that the state of Texas, which is today, is named Coahuila y Texas. And it goes from Texas down to Nuevo León, what is now Nuevo León, and Tamaulipas. This region is the Texas-Mexican region. South Texas and northeastern Mexico are a cohesive region, whereas if you travel all the way from Austin down to Monterrey, 2,000 years ago, we were all cooking in earth ovens. We shared the recipes, we shared the technologies. So in this region, the cooking is the same. It's like, for example, Oaxaca. Oaxaca has a cohesive, distinctive cooking style. It's called Oaxaca Mexican food. Puebla has a distinctive, Jalisco has a distinctive cooking style. It's called Jalisco Mexican food. And Sinaloa, that region also has its own specific norteño style with seafood, and it's called Sinaloa Mexican food. So they are all part of the larger Mexican gastronomy region, as are we. This larger region is called the Texas Mexican region. You've got Oaxaca Mexican, Jalisco Mexican, Sinaloa Mexican, Texas Mexican. We are one of the various gastronomy regions of the larger Mexican food. Why do all the foods resemble each other? That is, the food from Mexico City resembles the food that we cook in Texas. And that's because the entire region was connected. The people in Mexico City knew the people in San Antonio, knew the people in Houston, in the Rio Grande Valley. And this is a map of, that shows the route that Cabeza de Vaca, who was the first Spanish explorer, used when he went all the way from San Antonio and from Galveston Island, where he landed, all the way back to Mexico City. And he knew to use this route because the Native American peoples told him. And that's because all of this region was connected. Traffic, there were hundreds of these routes, and therefore that's why from Mexico City to Houston, we shared recipes. This map shows you that one of the roads led to La Sal del Rey. This is near Raymondville, Texas, which is very near us. This is a salt lake. It's called La Sal del Rey. It's 1 mile in diameter, and it's 5 miles in circumference. the people from Mexico City and southern Mexico would travel all the way up here to collect salt. They knew us. We knew them. And that's why we share recipes. We use chocolate, we use chiles, we use beans, but in different ways. Every region has its style. So when you think of this region, think of Texas within the larger Mexican gastronomic region. Central Texas had a lot of different people coming. I mean, not coming, but the Corpus Christi region, the third region that I talk about in my book, has all of these people living here. They're no longer here by name, but they are here because we are here and we are their descendants. And the third, which is the Rio Grande Valley, these are the names of all the peoples who lived here and who cooked this food. This is about identity. We can split the screen now and have both, yeah, that way I can look at you now that we're at this. This map is about identity and community within the Americas. I wanted to show you that because this is where all of this food has been cooked for over 2,000 years. Let's go back to the beans. Can you see the beans now? Notice how the bottom is dry. Can you see that? So what I'm doing is keeping the flame on medium, and I want the bottom to roast. The bottom is going to get very hot. I'm going to put some more water. You've seen your mother make these beans. You have seen this. If you live in the Rio Grande Valley, you have seen this. Notice how they're flaky. That's going to give you a good mouthfeel. But we have to let these cook for about 15-20 minutes. Frijoles guisados. As it cooks, the top is going to have una capa, and I'll show you that in a little bit. So I'll ask Chef Nadia to tell me when there's a capa, a little capa on top, and then we'll put the camera back here so that you can see. What we want is for the bottom to get very, very hot, and the bottom layer will roast the beans. The protein will become very, very rich in taste. It'll almost taste like bacon. A lot of restaurants don't take the time to do this. You do this at home. And so they instead will add bacon or add flavorings to it. But if you do it this way, the bean has a lot of flavor. Eating beans in this way shows that the nuances of our original food are very, very complex. So we'll let that cook.
Chef, I just asked the question of how many of our guests actually still cook beans from home, or from scratch, I'm sorry, and then how many have been to Sal del Rey? Because, I mean, we live here, you know, most of our area lives here, and so it's just a hop in a, ¿cómo se dice? A hop in a stitch or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah, hop in a jump in a,
yeah, está pa allá. That's what we say, right?
Yes. Okay. Thank you for asking that question of the students. So you let me know. Luz Calvo, who wrote the book, Decolonize Your Diet, says that cooking beans from scratch is a revolutionary act. And that is because when we cook them, we remember our memory, we remember our roots, and we are saying who we are amidst the advertising of fast food and the other types of semi-Mexican food. So while the beans are cooking, I'm going to start on the second dish. Remember, we're cooking flor de calabaza that's stuffed with chorizo and pinto beans. But the second dish is meatballs that are flavored with chile ancho. So to do that, we're going to take chiles anchos. I don't know if you have seen these before. I think the students who are in the more advanced classes have been cooking chile anchos, but some of the new students may not. So this is how, if you can show this is how if you can show me working on the chile, this is how I open the chile. You do a slit along the sides, and then you want to take out all of the seeds. Most of them are clumped along the stem, so you want to remove that. And then after you remove all the seeds, you want to go and see if there's any membranes, and there will be membranes. And the membranes, you want to take those out as well. And this technique is the first step that we use to rehydrate the chiles. This chile is a dried chile poblano, a ripe and dried chile poblano. Now all of the seeds and the membranes are gone. The seeds and the membranes are taken out because that is where the capsaicin resides. Now the capsaicin is where is what burns your tongue, you know. So you want to take all that out. One of the big differences between our food, the comida casera, is that we use a lot of chile picoso, but for flavor. We don't want it to be so hot that it burns your mouth and you can't taste anything. And whereas the Tex-Mex restaurant really advertises heat, and so they use 1-alarm chili, 2-alarm chili, but the heat really is secondary to the flavor. The heat is serving flavor. So this is how you deseed it. You will take and you boil it for about 15 minutes to rehydrate it. This is what it looks like after it's been rehydrated. I don't know if you can see that. And you're going to, then the second step is to put it in a blender and puree it. It's soft, it's rehydrated, the color has deepened, and this is the reason that we don't like vendors in our restaurants who say, buy this chile because it's 1-alarm, 2-alarm, it's hot. We don't buy it for the heat, we buy it for the aroma, for the color, and for the flavor. Okay, let's switch to the beans. Watch, they're not burning, but see how dry they are? Can you see that? Yeah. See how dry? And you keep scraping the bottom so that all of them become roasted. I'm going to lower, and when they get to that point, I lower it and let them cook. Now we'll go quickly to the adobo. Adobo is spices, some onions, garlic. This is going to flavor the meatballs, and oregano. We're going to add a little bit of salt. And
somebody asked if you have any other influences in your cuisine other than Texas and Mexican, but we're working on a meatball, and there's a third identity there that you talk about in your book, which is?
Yes, the Arab identity. Can you pulse this?
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
I'll let you do that. While Chef Nadia does that, what we want to do is add a little bit of water.
It likes me. No, I'm just kidding, Chef.
We add a little bit of water. Add about a cup of water. You want it to liquefy. And this is an industrial one. We want it put it on high. Absolutely. And it's so strong, this motor, that you could run your lawnmower on it. We want all of the seeds, we want all of the particles to become very, very smooth. That's fine.
This is the Fast and the Furious of blenders.
What I'd like, this is the puree, this is the first step to make the adobo. So it's all of those ingredients. And adobo is spices with chile. The beans are done. The way that we want to do this is, can you see that? Yeah. So you add a little bit of vegetable oil. When it's hot, you pour in the chile. I'm going to answer your question about the other influences, but I want to show you this. This is called frying the chile, friendo el chile. And we cook it because all of the flavors are green. The spices have not blended. The chiles will taste green and raw. So we want to cook this for about 10 minutes or so, 8 minutes, so that the flavors begin to blend and all the greenness and tartness disappears. So I'll ask Chef to watch that while we continue We just want it to boil. While we do that, we're going to do the meatballs.
All right.
And the meatballs are exactly what the question was asking me, answers that question. And that is, what other influences? When you cook Mexican food in Texas, you are automatically taking the influences of France and the Spaniards. And when you take the influence of the Spaniards, you have the influence of the Arab cuisine, because Spain was occupied by the Arabs for 800 years, until 1500. And this recipe begins with a very, very standard origin, a very standard method of, that's for the chorizo, that's not it.
Oh, this is for the meatballs?
Yes.
Oh, sorry about that, chef. You get choose.
Yeah. We start with bread and milk. Meatballs, the albóndigas is the French. Thank you. Is the French. Sorry, this is taking a bit.
Sure. They're asking if the blending changes the flavor of the chili.
The blending will not change the flavor, but it will combine the flavors. The flavors stay intact, but they do combine. And that combining, when we cook them, then the flavors do change. The flavors will change when you cook them. And the combination of the two will be different from what they were in flavor when they were not cooked. This is bread that has been soaked in milk. And we add an egg. There we go. The egg needs to be, thank you, beaten. Up to now, this is continuing the answer about different techniques. Up to now, all that I'm doing is Arab, which influenced Europe, because the Arab cuisine also influenced Europe. And most of the meatballs that you will see, Chilean, Swedish, Italian, they all have the same technique. Eggs and bread. But when this technique reaches the shores of Texas, we take it and make it our own by adding the chile puree. So you mix that, and then after you mix that, we add the chile. So let's go to the chile. I think it's ready. I'm going to take these off. Let me show you how you know that the chile, when you're cooking it, is ready. We can go to the chile now. See how it's boiling? That, most of the time, you will see that the color has deepened, and most of the, if you were to taste it, the green has gone away. So that's done. We're going to flavor. We're going to flavor.
Oh my God. You guys got to be here.
It smells wonderful. Well, it's a little bit more. And at this stage, what we can do is, we'll put this here. What we can do is taste it. Now, a lot of people will sort of taste it raw. I never do that. What you do is you take a little bit and you put it into a, you just fry it really in a saucepan, in a frying pan rather, and then you can taste, does it need more chile, does it need more salt, and so forth. But I put the salt as I'm blending it, so I think it's enough salt. I'm not going to taste it. I'm going to forego that step so that we can go ahead. I'm going to ask the chefs if they will make these into albóndigas and set them on the sheet pan and start baking them. They are to be baked in a 400 degree oven. I don't fry them because I try to stay away from all of the fat, not add too much fat. So I don't fry them. They come out really, really nice if you do the albóndigas in here.
Yes,
I'm going
chef.
to ask them to, all you do is, you know, they're a little bit gelatinish. Okay.
All right. You gonna wash your hands, chef?
Yes.
So look who's here. That
Oh,
guy.
Chef Ruben.
We're gonna make him do meatballs.
Okay. I'm going to put on an apron. The meatballs are going to cook for 15 minutes.
15
The
minutes.
outside will be very crispy, and the inside will be very, 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 very smooth. I mean, very, very juicy and tender. The next thing we're going to do. Say that again.
Does it make you cough, like choke up, the chile, the smell of the cooked chile,
Does it make me?
like cough?
No.
Not anymore, right?
The chile ancho is not very hot. If this were to be chile serrano, you'd have to have very good ventilation, because you would. But the chile ancho isn't too much. Now the next thing we're going to do is to make the adobo, and we're going to go back to the puree.
Oh.
You know, we had some puree left, and we put it back in the stove, and to that we're going to add the ingredients that make the adobo. The adobo always has some acid, and so to get the acid we add the beautiful tomatoes. Tomate is indigenous to Mexico, as are chiles. Can you imagine, not only do we have the influence of the French and the Arabs, but they were influenced. Can you imagine what would the French do without haricot vert? Or with what would India do without chiles, or Japan, or Asia? What would the Italians do without our tomatoes? So there was this exchange back and forth. We enriched each other's. To the adobo, I'm going to add the tomatoes, some chicken stock, and then that has to cook for about 20 minutes, unfortunately, so that the do we have a stick blender?
I'm sorry?
Do we have a stick blender?
A stick blender? We certainly do, chef.
Or I can put these in here. Could you blend these into
Yeah,
a smooth puree? So what I normally do with the adobo is either put it in the blender so that the tomato bits get very, very smooth, and then cook it. And after you cook it with those ingredients, it's just a lovely, lovely sauce. While that is cooking, I'm going to make the chiles.
Did you want to blend it now?
Yes.
All
Would you do
right.
that?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do the chorizo. Now we've been cooking two things for the squash. We're doing two things for the squash. These are the squash blossoms. Where are they?
They are.
These squash blossoms were picked yesterday morning by Chef Nadia from a local farm. We removed the pistils. Let's see.
These still have the pistils, and then these are.
These are the squash blossoms, and inside, they're very delicate. Inside you see either a stamen or a pistil, and you have to take that out because it's very bitter. Some people eat it if they're not too bitter, and I mean they are edible. They're not going to poison you, but you do remove it. So to remove it, you simply open they're very, very delicate. You open it and you take out the pistil like that. See? So these have already been cleaned. We're going to stuff them with beans and chorizo. So we've started cooking the beans. Now we're going to make the chorizo. The chorizo starts with...
Here it is, chef.
Oh, here we go. Thank you. Ta-da! Okay. Starts with pork. Chorizo, of course, is pork. And everybody in the Rio Grande Valley knows pork. We're going to add all of these ingredients to the pork, which is chile ancho and chile pasilla. We'll have to blend these,
Yes, chef.
along with cinnamon, cloves, garlic, and then we're going to, of course, salt. Now, does this ring something? The question earlier was, what other influences? This is very much Indian. You know, the cinnamon and the clove. It's very much Arab and Indian. But we change it up again like we did the meatballs with the addition of the chile. So when we make the chorizo, a lot of your parents will have made chorizo, but they won't add the cinnamon or the cloves. They'll just do the garlic and the chiles. I use 2 chiles, chile ancho and chile pasilla. And in the valley, I don't think you add the spices, which is perfectly fine. So you can forego them. Maybe after you do the first batch, you will want maybe the next time to add more cinnamon, more cloves. All of these go in there, and I'm going to add a little bit of salt. And then we'll blend it.
Chef, a lot of people substitute, a lot of companies, chorizo companies, substitute that beautiful red chile to paprika, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Or they love to add paprika because it's smoky, but really, guys, you get the smoke from the chile that's been dried. That's the same flavor.
Yes, that's such a... Look at the ingredients. The ingredients are from this part of the world. Everything that we're doing is flavored with ingredients from this part of the world. We're going to fry all that. What I'd like to say about the use of paprika is it comes from chile dulce. Paprika is a red chile dulce, red bell pepper. And it comes from Mexico. It was taken to Spain by Christopher Columbus, and they loved it because it's not hot. And so they smoke it, and people think it's Spanish, but it's a Mexican chile. But it doesn't give you the flavor of the chile ancho. Chile ancho is from the Poblano chile, and then I use pasilla. Pasilla is a chile that looks like this, and it tastes like a raisin. So it's got a lovely flavor. So we're going to add, that's enough for that.
That's good.
We're going to add I'm going to ask would you mix that since you have your
Absolutely.
gloves? Just a little bit. Okay, yeah.
Good?
Yeah.
All right.
And as you can see, you just blend the chiles in it. And as I say, chorizo has different flavors. Down here in South Texas, you're probably not going to add the spices, but you will add vinegar. I always add vinegar. I didn't tell you, but I added vinegar to the mixture, apple cider vinegar. You can add white vinegar. Okay, thank you very much. So that's the, and where's the tray with the,
Right here.
and here is how you put it together. The albóndigas are cooking. They'll
Yes,
be
chef.
ready. Here's how you put it together. To make the stuffing for the flor de calabaza, you take onion. I'll need another one of these.
Absolutely.
Add some oil. You saute the onion with the chorizo until the chorizo is almost crisp. I don't know how you like your chorizo in the morning when you have it with tacos or with eggs, but I like to cook the chorizo until it gets a little bit crispy on the edges, and that's what this is going to do. We're going to cook it along with the onion. The onion adds a nice little spice to it. The onion is also going to turn a little bit sweet because this will cook for about 8 to 10 minutes, after which we'll be able to stuff the flor de calabaza. When they're ready, let me know.
What are your favorite ways of eating chorizo, guys? Besides chorizo and egg. Let's hear it. We want to know your recipes.
I was told by various people from the valley after they read my book that one of them said, finally someone has a recipe that has vinegar in the chorizo, because that's what I grew up with. We always put vinegar in, and when I went to the store at this particular brand, they never had vinegar in it, so we always put vinegar in it. At least we always did. blending of flavors. I'm going to take a break from this. If you'll keep
Yes, sure.
cooking this, I'm going to take a break from this to just say that the blending of flavors is something that was invented by women. And I have to mention that because most often when we talk about food and we invite chefs like myself, unfortunately, I'm here knowing that everything that I cook, every technique that I use, women invented it. I'd like to go to a slide. If you can switch to a slide, and if you want to, I don't mind if it's a split screen. I know that they're doing it upstairs. So this is a slide I really want to go to because it will say in very visual terms why it is that when I cook in my ancestral lands, I am on the shoulders of culinarians who came before me. This is in Enchanted Rock, Texas. You know, we're near Fredericksburg. You probably have heard of it. That rock back there is a boulder. That's what it looks like up close, and you'll see little indentations. The indentations are actually mortars that were the Native American people made mortars. There are 5 of them in there. And in the mortars, like they do with the molcajete, you use them to pound, to grind, to make pastes, and you use a mano, of course. In the molcajete, we use a tejolote. We also have stone cooking that precedes baking. We are baking the albóndigas in an oven, but women invented earth ovens. This oven is located in San Antonio, and we use them for baking, for roasting, for steaming. All of these techniques, 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, they were being used here in the valley, in San Antonio, in Fredericksburg, in Monterrey, to do what we do today. And we have to be grateful and realize that we are cooking on their because of their culinary prowess. This is an oboe stem in San Antonio. It's about 4,000 years old. The archaeologists also have found stone boiling artifacts. Stone boiling, we did stone boiling when we cooked the adobo. We were boiling. They would take and dig a hole in the ground, cover it with hide or tree bark, and then add hot stones to it. And when you add hot stones, then it would boil, and they would put spices, very much like we're doing today. But women were in charge of cooking. Women engineered these technologies. And I'd like to move beyond all of these to show you how, these are all the regions. But I do want to show you this slide. This is the chile ancho. This is the chile poblano that we're cooking with. When it dries and it becomes a chile ancho, it's very different. It looks very different. But chile poblano comes from Tamaulipas. Look at this map. See the blue down here where it says genetics? That's Tamaulipas. That's Mexico, Brownsville. That's the Rio Grande Valley. The genetic archaeological evidence for poblano chiles, serrano chiles comes from this region. So for thousands of years ago, what we're doing today, they did here in Texas, southeastern Mexico. Before the arrival in 1528 in Texas of the Europeans, we used squash. The native ingredients are squash, beans, and the chiles. And they mixed with European ingredients, onion, garlic. We had onions, but we mixed it with garlic. And I just want to show this list. We cooked with corn, sotol, beans, tomatoes. Now we're cooking with the imported ingredients, wheat, milk, onion, and lard. The ones on the right are totally new ingredients. They've been here only about 400 years. Before that, we were cooking for thousands of years with tomatoes and beans. But we mixed them. We mixed them beautifully. That's what we're doing today. We used to cook with turkey, buffalo, deer, and quail. All of those 4 are native to this region. The quail has been here for over 5,000 years, and there's evidence of our ancestors cooking quail. Today we cook beef, pork, sheep, and goats. Those are new. We're combining them in different ways. But we have to be conscious of the heritage, that indigenous native ingredients, we mix them with the imported, newly arrived immigrant ingredients like pork and garlic. so that the art of Texas Mexican cooking is really comida casera. And I said that before, and now we'll go back to the cooking. So it's ready. Now we're going to wait for the meatballs to be ready, and while we do that, we're going to stuff the squash. To do that, we're going to combine both ingredients that were just seen beautifully on the screen. This is ready. I'm going to put just a little. I don't want that much. We're going to mix the beans with okay, we're going to mix the beans with the chorizo. I hope you can see that. Now, notice everything had to be cooked separately because it's important that if the flavors are going to be melding together beautifully, oh, you want to cook some tortillas? Let's make some tortillas. Okay.
We got some meatballs here.
I'm gonna make tortillas.
Okay. These are the meatballs. You know what? Let's plate the meatballs.
Let's plate the meatballs.
Let's plate the
All
meatballs.
Right.
I'm going to let this cook a little, wind down and cool down a little bit, and then we're going to pipe it. Let's let this cool down a little bit. You see how the color is very beautiful, and the aroma is just lovely. And you'll see that normally when the squash blossoms are stuffed with cheese, mostly they're cheese, they have a very light flavor, but this is going to be a very bold flavor. So, yes, let's plate those.
The
If you'll
meatballs,
help
okay.
me, if you'll help me with that,
I sure can.
here we go. We'll put 3 here.
All right.
Those meatballs, if you can see, let's focus in on the meatballs. On the outside, they're very, very crispy. They've got dark spots. And,
There's that Maillard reaction you were talking
the
about.
Maillard reaction. And can we have a ladle?
Absolutely.
And those dark spots are very crispy. And we're going to add the adobo. The adobo is ready. You can put this here.
Oh, it smells good.
It smells wonderful. You know,
That smells good.
the nice thing about cooking with chiles where you don't emphasize the heat is that you're going to bring up all of these flavors. If you taste these albóndigas, they have no heat whatsoever. They have no heat whatsoever. So this is the way you serve them. They're fairly large. You can eat them with a fork. You can put a toothpick on them and pass them around. I like to put a lot of this beautiful, beautiful adobo. There you go. And then I top them with the oregano. The oregano is in the meatball flavoring because it's in the adobo. But I like to season to garnish it with it. See, you can see that. So that's a lovely dish. You can pass that around for football games. That's one. But here's another. Here, soccer games. Here's another thing you can do. You can make sliders out of them. And it's like a meatball sandwich, except it's a Mexican meatball sandwich. And
you can smell the flavor.
isn't it nice?
Oh, it's wonderful. Magical.
So I like to put, we'll need a bigger plate.
Bigger plate?
Yeah.
Coming right up.
I like to put, these are larger, so one will do.
One will do.
From
You
there.
had me make the meatballs, so that's
Yes. And
That's
do we
something
have
should be worn.
the cauliflower, or we'll do one each? There. And then we will add the adobo on top. The adobo likes to soak into the bread, so it'll flavor not only the bread, but the aroma that comes out of it is just wonderful. If you have smaller meatballs, of course you can put 2 or 3. I like it this way. Do we have another plate? Another big plate? Great, and this is how you would plate the meatballs. There's 1 and 2 and 3. I garnish it with very finely sliced green cabbage. You know, repollo is very much part of our cuisine. We season fish tacos with it, and pozole. Can I have a paper towel? So those are the sliders that you can have at a party for your guests. And it's a chile ancho meatballs taken in a new direction. And we'll leave that like that. Now we'll so those are 2 dishes. We'll stuff the cauliflower. I mean, the squash blossom. Would you do the honors?
Absolutely.
If you'll hold that.
Sure.
Yes.
This work with a venison meat chorizo?
What? That's a great question. Yes. I would urge you to use venison instead of beef. I prefer venison. This is more traditional, but I would use venison. I would also use turkey. Both turkey and venison are indigenous to us, and so they're going to go with these flavors more naturally. So definitely. And my website is adanmedrano.com. When you make it especially with turkey would be wonderful. With turkey or venison, send me a note. What?
What about chachalana? The chicken doesn't want to know.
Okay, chef, if you'll help me, we're going to.
Absolutely.
This is how you stuff the. Okay, we'll switch to the camera. There we go. Notice how it's open. Fill it. Close it up. There's 1, and you continue doing them with the others. You get a slit. And fill them. I think this is fun. Sometimes on the top, you twist them a little bit so that they will be closed to seal them. Now I'm going to start frying these. Chef, if you'll continue making the rest of them, I'll do 3. Here you go. And then we'll go to the frying pan. And I will show you what they look like when they're finished. Some people like to bread them. I don't particularly like too much breading on the flor de calabaza because it takes away from the flavor. The flavor of the flor de calabaza is very, very mild. It's a sweet, beautiful, aromatic flavor, and I like to taste it. And I think when it's fried in vegetable oil, it makes a very nice layer. Keep in mind one thing, if you remember, and this has to do with tortillas as well. Keep in mind one thing, flor de calabaza, like tortillas, are not a wrap. They are the thing itself. You have to be able to taste them. If you make flor de calabaza and the recipe is such that you can't actually taste it, it's not, I mean, you might as well use plastic, you know. You want to have the flavoring of the flor de calabaza. So here's 3. I'm going to start, if you can see this, 1, when the oil is very hot. I like to put the stems on sometimes, some people don't. It depends on your preference. When these go in, I don't know if you can hear the sizzle, but they'll start sizzling. And it only takes about 2 minutes per side. And you will be able to see when the flor de calabaza begins to get a little bit translucent. then it'll be done. I do these for parties beforehand, and you can reheat them slightly in an oven, just 300 degrees for about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then keep serving them like little appetizers on a platter. You see how nice you can turn them so that they curve. This one came out. And that's how you do the flor de calabaza. Stuffing them with chorizo and beans is very different because, as I was saying earlier, they're mainly done. Could you put these on a plate so I can be cooking them? Thank you, chef. It's so nice. It's so nice. Okay, it's so nice to have friends who help, right? This is great. Okay, I think we're done with all of these items. What are the questions? Any more questions?
There was one question that we were asking about trends in Texas Mexican.
Okay. Yes. The big trend in Texas Mexican is, one moment, let me just get this. Doesn't this look lovely? One, I can have a clean plate. The trends have to do with protecting the integrity of poor people's food. That's the trend. And it's being done in fine dining restaurants. And what that means is when you cook barbacoa in a fine dining restaurant, you make sure that the storytelling about where barbacoa comes from is told. Here. And that you follow the recipes and the actual process that the original poor people used, because they're really smart chefs. I mean, there's a lot of trends like fast food and Taco Bell. I wouldn't call those trends because they're fads. I think they're fads and they come and go. But trends are those that are rooted in understanding of the food. Barbacoa comes from poor people's food. The head was discarded. We made beautiful food out of it. I think that's a trend that when you take the food from the poor people's comida casera, do it in a way that makes sense. I think the other trend is always make it very, very fresh. You might say that's not a new trend, you always have it, but it is a new trend with Mexican food. Usually, the really good restaurants will tell me there are no cans in my kitchen. Cans are only for beer and Coca-Cola. This is what the blossoms look like. I mean, there's only 3. The others are cooking, and you will see the colors are still bright. You want the colors to still be bright, and I'm gonna taste one, and I think we're done.
I think we're done.
Oh, there's the tortilla. There's the tortilla. I forgot the tortilla. See? Oh, okay.
See, a lot of that tortilla, right? I mean, that's how we're supposed to eat in food. Vibrant,
That's
beautiful colors that are natural, guys. I buy the same colored tortillas from H-E-B. They're like 58 cents a pack. They're very convenient. But the corn is the yellow part of it. Right?
And when you taste it, when you
It's
taste the
not
corn,
dry. Tastes like corn.
yeah,
There's just
lovely.
a couple more questions before we leave.
Okay, so one of the questions is, what
Oh.
else can we cook with the calabaza, the fruit of calabaza?
These are wonderful. Sorry to interrupt you. Okay, you can make soup caldo with flor de calabaza. You can stuff them with cheese and different flavorings. You can dry them, dehydrate them, and then you can use them in salads or as they're crisp. You can flavor other things with them. And I would say,
quesadillas with calabaza.
oh yeah, I mean, that's it.
With
Yeah.
flor de calabaza.
So you do this. You do this. Quesadillas and the flor de calabaza. That right?
And you
Right?
happy time. Happy
Yeah.
time.
Very, very nice.
We also had someone asked also about the chorizo. How long will the chorizo last once they've mixed it in the fridge?
How long will chorizo last?
Keep the chorizo after you blend it. Put it in the refrigerator for 24 hours so that the flavors develop. And then after that, freeze it. I make a big batch. I use little plastic bags, and it'll keep for 3 or 4 months in the freezer. And you take it out, it's delicious.
And then, is there someone special, or what was your inspiration for choosing the food industry?
This is my third profession. I was a filmmaker first for 20 years. Then I was a philanthropist, making grants for 23 years. And then I went to food. Food has always been my passion. The reason I do this is because when I studied culinary at the Culinary Institute of America, the CIA, they taught us about the Mexican food of Puebla, Oaxaca, Sinaloa, but they didn't teach us about the Texas Mexican food. So my mother's cooking, my grandmother's cooking, I thought, where are we? We're totally invisible, and I didn't like that. I thought that our food is so beautiful, it really should enrich more people. More people should know about it, and that's why I decided to write my first book, and then the second one. And when I got the invitation to come here, okay, that's why I did it. Yeah. Tortilla.
Okay, guys, here's the thing.
Yeah.
That's how you know you're in the right profession.
Yes.
If you go to work and you're like, oh my, come on, you just saw him.
Camera here, camera here.
Fangirl over this.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you do that in your job and you're so excited to continue to learn, continue to see flavors, right? This is the first time Chef has held this masa.
Yeah.
It smells, it brings
Yeah.
you back to that passion that he's talking about. Okay?
Really, could this camera get this, please? Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Where are you?
There it goes.
Yeah. Look at this beautiful, beautiful texture. It's hot. It's got aroma. You can just sprinkle a little bit of water and salt and eat it. Now I can come back to me and eat it. And it's just it's amazing.
That is very
So
good.
you're right. I'm going to make a taco out of these things.
Okay. All right.
So
Well,
those are our 3 dishes.
thank you very much, Chef Adan, for giving us a little bit of information, for giving us a little bit of knowledge in our cooking, and also for speaking up for Texas cuisine. Right? Tex-Mex tends to be what everybody assumes when they hear about Texas cuisine, and that's a cuisine, just like you said. It's part of what's out there, but it's not necessarily indicative to what we grew up eating.
Yes.
So we definitely appreciate that you're putting a little spotlight on our food, and letting us know the importance of the area and the ingredients. Like I
Thank
said,
you.
as a department, as a college, we want to thank you for coming out here and sharing your knowledge and experience, and it is very much appreciated.
Thank you, and thank you for watching.
Thank you for tuning in. Everybody have a good one. Now we get to eat, right?